Sorry about that. For some reason, the other live just wouldn't seem to work. So this one is a little bit more accurate, I guess. I am going to be pouring lead and not so much airbrushing, painting lures because I can't get my little gun to quite work right. So I'm just pouring these little bass broom jigs and our Bo Peep jigs. I'm gonna mess around with this airbrush gun a little bit. If I can get this thing working, we'll work on some of these lures that I've got here. But for some reason, this thing is just not cooperating. That's probably out of the realm of possibility for today. And that's okay because I've got plenty of these that I have to pour. So this is how they come out of the mold. And I'm pouring 3 out of the 6 spots that's in this mold. I'm doing 1 for the bass broom style jig, and then I'm doing 2 in the Bo Peep jig. So that's your Bo Peep style jig. Along with that one there. And then this one is our little bass broom jig. And I'll show you something right here. If you can see how that mold is not completely closed, that will cause issues. If I were to pour my lead like that, the jig heads wouldn't quite come out right. And what it is one of the hooks is just moved a little bit in the area that it was supposed to be sitting in. So now you can see it's completely closed. And that's all there is to pouring of the jig heads, really. I just, once they come out of the mold, I cut the little excess off the top. I turn around and I put my hooks back in the mold and set up for another round. You make your what with silver? Jig heads? Be some expensive jig heads. So here you go on that. Then, like I mentioned before, I just take them. I got my rack set up right here where I put them, keep them separated. Yeah, I'd bet. What's the purpose of using silver? That's definitely new to me. I've done paint and body work for over 20 years, and I'm in a very well ventilated building. But you are correct. If you're concerned about the fumes when doing this, you should definitely wear a respirator. Yeah, I have both my bay doors open on the garage behind me, so plenty of ventilation in here. I'm not closed up. I had mentioned earlier, I don't run the air conditioner and keep the shop closed when I'm out here. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Jim. Basically, I am very much in an open area. The next time I go on here, I'm going to have this area cleaned up again. Like I said, else will probably kill me before the lead fumes. You're probably very correct on that. I am not concerned about the lead fumes. "26 years ago, when I started painting cars, I would sit there and do paint jobs with a cigarette hanging out of my mouth and no respirator on. So I no longer do that silly stuff, and I no longer smoke either. So that's your Bo Peep jig. And this is what I call the bass broom. I mentioned it on here before. The reason why these are called Bo Peep jigs is because we primarily promote those for going after sheephead, and the bass broom, because these jigs are a sweeper style jig, that's why I name those a bass broom. Trying to be clever. That was my last pour for the lead. Since I'm not going to be doing the micro rounds, and that's what we call our small 1/64th jig heads. They're what we call the micro rounds, the STC micro rounds to be exact. So now what we'll get into is I'm going to fire up my little oven here, take this multi-cam off of there, and we'll start powder coating up some of these jig heads. So bear with me for just a second. It's going to take a few minutes for those to heat up, but then I'll show you the process that we go through for powder coating. And I've already got some in here, if you can see. I'll get those heated up. Be right back. All right. Sorry about that. Getting stuff set up. If anybody has any questions or anything while we're waiting on those jig heads to heat up, that'd be a good time for it. And I'll show you, we're going to be doing this chartreuse green and our chartreuse yellow today. Once these get fully up to temperature, takes a little while to get the temperature right on those, but once we get that going, they go pretty quick. Always fluff my powder up. It puts air into the canister with the powder and allows the jig head to sink down in there without resistance, so it goes on nice and smooth. I think we'll start with this chartreuse green. And all I'll do is just stick it down in the powder. Always forget to shut that lid though, and it bites me in the end because I let all my temperature out. But that's your chartreuse green when it's just got the fresh powder on it. And what I'm doing when I'm tapping this canister on the table here, I'm sinking that jig head into the powder. Now we'll do some of these chartreuse yellow. So you can see that yellow there. Once I do this last yellow one, I'll pull out some of these greens that the powder is melted down on, and we can take a look at those. And that's all there is to that. Once we get that powder on there, you let it come back up to temperature and melt the powder on there. And this is the finish that you get. Nice, shiny, solid powder coated finish. And these are still very hot when they come out of the oven, and they will very much stick together. So that's why I hang them up by themselves to cool up there on the rack in different spots. And then that is your chartreuse yellow. Then I just grab another handful off the rack that are made. Some of these we just made during this video, this live. Some of them already had made up. And I've mentioned it before, but it never hurts to mention it again. Don't try to reuse your powder coating oven if you do anything like this. This little powder coating oven is no longer any good for food or anything like that. Throw this one on there too. And we'll let that come up to temperature, and we'll do the same thing over again. We'll hit them with the chartreuse green. Fluff the powder up. I'm going to get the little airbrush guns cleaned up good in the next couple of days so we can finish up these little poppers and these whopper ploppers that I started. But I got in a hurry getting ready for the tournament last week, and I threw the gun in there up on the table. You can see the table's a mess, and I just didn't take the time to clean it up real good. So I'll get those guns cleaned up, and we'll be able to shoot those again here shortly. But for the time being, we'll powder coat some jig heads. Let me show you. I don't know how well you can pick that up, but see how the powder didn't quite go all the way on the jig head? That's because I didn't have my temperature quite hot enough yet. So get in a rush and don't let it get up the temperature all the way. It doesn't work well that way. Has anybody on here checked out the video from the tournament? This is the same microphone system that let me down out there, but I didn't realize that one of the microphones, obviously, whenever the rainstorm come in, got wet. So that's why I wasn't picking up sound. All right, so there you go. See, it's good and covered this time. Just let that temperature come back up. Starting my new job on Monday, and this is actually what I'll be doing as part of my job on a much larger scale. I'll be powder coating stuff during the day. So I've worked in a full-scale powder coating booth at a restoration shop years ago, but this is even a larger scale than that. This is going to be in a manufacturing facility, so should be a lot of fun. I'm going to do some of these in our blaze orange as well. And that's the blaze orange before it goes in and gets melted. I'll pull some of these orange out here in just a minute and show you what the final color looks like on that once it's all melted down. See, that one the temperature didn't quite get right. You can kind of see some of the lead shining through. Opening and closing the oven door too much. I'll finish up with these last three that are in there with the chartreuse yellow. The yellow and the green, it really seems to be everybody's favorite. You can see that blaze orange once it's been melted down. I'll also do some in white as well. The white color seems to be another one of the better colors. People haven't been too much of a fan of just the straight lead with no powder coat on them, which I was kind of surprised. I don't have my normal phone holder out here either, so the camera's kind of at a bad spot, but why would I put a mask on, Chili? This little bit of dust that's coming off of, okay, I was about to say this isn't gonna affect me very much. Now, when I was doing the lead, yes, again, I know a lot of people are concerned with that, and you can't see in here, but I'm in a very big 2-car garage building that both doors are wide open, plenty of airflow in here. I'm in no danger. I'm not like inside a closed-in building or anything. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I'm trying to do better on each one of these lives whenever I do them. It's something I'm still fairly new to. And I apologize if I was coming off as a little bit rude when you were saying a thing about the mask. But thank you. I appreciate that. And hope you tune in on the next one. So again, this is our chartreuse green. And something I mentioned on these lives as well, whenever I package these jig heads, I always make certain to clear off the eyelets. Because I have opened up major brands before and had to sit there and unclog the eyelet before I was ready to tie it on my line. And that is one of the most annoying things I think I have to deal with. So I know if it gets on my nerves, it gets on other people's nerves. So I try to make sure that's not an issue on our jigs. There's another set in here. Something that would be helpful if I would remember when I'm doing this, and I never do, is to face all these hooks on these racks the same way so they come off a little bit easier. All right, I think that's all of them. I've got to get out here and start powder coating some of the little micro rounds. That'll probably be the next process that I do, is doing the little 1/64th, little tiny jigs. They're a little bit aggravating because they're just so small, and trying to keep the temperature right on them and trying to get them in and out of this oven it can be a nightmare. So we're going to start with the chartreuse yellow on these. Once the temperature gets right. Lead pot's finally cooled down, so that didn't work at all. Anybody got any suggestions on a new color for the jig heads? I'm always looking for different suggestions on stuff like that. It's the aggravating part, waiting on lead to heat up. I might do some white ones. And that's the white jig heads. This powder is a little different than the other powders that I use because on this 2 ounces, it's anywhere from $10 to $14 on that. But when it comes to the white, I can go get this whole thing, and I think this, 16 ounces of the white for $10. So, and I happened upon that because I was trying to find the white in the Protect powder, and I could not find it anywhere. So yeah, that's your white powder. You can see it's real clumpy looking. As soon as it takes and it the heat melts it down, it's going to smooth right out. All right, last 4. I'm going to finish those off in this chartreuse green because, like I said, that seems to be everybody's favorite. So that's what we'll do. And that's the jig head in the powder right there. You can see. Just knock off the excess. That's your green there. Then you can see that's the white. You see the way the light's catching the shine on that. Put one of these tiny ones in here, and I'll powder coat one of those before we get off the stream. Really wish I knew where my tweezers were at. Probably use this though. And like I said, it takes a little while for those small ones to get hot. Not quite as long as, you know, the big full size, especially like the half ounce or something like that. I don't know if you can see that little jig head on the end of that. But they get the same treatment. They dip in the powder coat and then go into the oven to melt that powder down. And that's the chartreuse green once the powder has had the time to go in the oven and melt down. And that's all of them for now. I've got to get out here and make a bunch more jigs in the next couple of days. Then I'll be powder coating those. Primarily, I'm going to be working on the little micro rounds, those little 1/64s like that last one I just showed you. I'll start making those up. And then I think we're going to be doing a video coming up real soon where we're going to do a whole catch and cook thing with some panfish and stuff like that. Got plenty of stuff coming. Just the lives, I always work on my jigs and my lures. And then on my regular videos, I do reviews and fishing content, stuff like that. So if you're here watching and you're not subscribed, go over there and subscribe. Definitely like everybody to hit the like button and stuff like that. That helps the channel out. And we'll be working on these little whopper ploppers as soon as I take the time to really clean these little airbrush guns up real good. You can see there's the big cigar type whopper plopper. And then we have these little poppers as well. And I threw one of these for the first time. It was on the video, the last live that I did, where I painted one of these. And this thing walks just side to side so nice in the water. And it just leaves a real nice popping action. So I am definitely going to be doing more of these. Also have plenty of crankbaits that I can still do and stuff like that. So until next time, guys, y'all have a good one, and we'll see you then.